Oh boy. Does it feel weird for me to say that so much happened, yet like nothing happened in this episode? Because that's kind of how it feels. I have thoughts that need to be organized. Let's just start from the very beginning. You know, we see King, and he's having a dream. He's in the, whatever we want to call this place, the same place where Luz visited at the end of Season 2A, and she saw her mom, and we hear the Collector talking about, oh, how I'm almost free! Yes, it's so awesome! And he's trapped in something? Whatever. It looks like a freaking Ultra Ball from Pokemon Sun and Moon. That's the only thing I can compare it to off the very start. I'm sure there'll be details later. So that happened, and then King wakes up. Nothing super crazy, but it's interesting that he had a dream about the Collector. Maybe it's because he's now connected somehow to the Collector that we saw 2 episodes ago. When he lit the flame, they said that now there's a connection between King and the Collector. And that makes me a bit nervous, because if King's the last Titan, he's the only one who has Titan blood. Collector having Titan blood, probably not a good idea. Anyways, after the intro, we meet up with Luz, Hooty, and King, and they're walking off the ship, you know, making their way back to the Owl House. And then King's having some flashbacks to recap everybody about what happened several episodes ago. And then we get this cool shot where it shows wanted posters of the whole crew. And this is hilarious, dude. We see, you know, let's take a look at the right. We have Luz and Lilith. The honestly really good art. Only 1 million and 2 million snails for both of them. You can't really see what Eda's is, but hers is like, there's a ton of zeros. I imagine it's going to be, like, just from like the spacing on it, probably like 1 trillion snails. So that means Bello sees her as the biggest threat, which is honestly super cool. And then there's Hooty, called Tube Demon. That's so funny. I like how they all have like titles where Luz is just human, Eda's Owl Lady, Hooty is Tube Demon, and then it's just Lilith. Just Lilith. Not even like anything special, just Lilith. Hooty's only 50,000, which is weird. It's like, why is he only 50,000? Like, he's the main struggle that, like, Lilith. Remember back in, I forget what episode it was, but Lilith and a whole team of Coven Scouts couldn't beat Hooty. And they even mentioned later in this episode, these Coven Guards are like, oh, without that bird tube thing, we could actually do something. It's like, they know he's a threat, but only 50,000 snails? I would have laughed so hard if, like, Hooty was, like, even, or at least, like, the second most to Eda, or even if he was the most, like, that would have killed me. It makes sense for Eda to be the most, but whatever. Anyways, I just like that, you know, it's like, it gives me One Piece vibes, where One Piece has bounties sort of related to a character's strengths. It kind of gives me little vibes from that, but Eda's is definitely the highest of the whole pack. So anyways, Luz, Hooty, and King make their way back to the Owl House, and they spy on some Coven soldiers taking away their stuff. Especially one thing that we can clearly see is Francois, King's little plush bunny thing. And they make their way to the Owl House, and it's completely empty. They find like a little paper that I believe Lilith leaves there? I forget. Tells them to go to the knee. So then at the knee, we see Lilith and Eda talking about what sort of plan they're supposed to make. And then we see the Hex Mix once again. And there's actually an inconsistency error here. At first, or I guess not at first, later on when Eda has the bag over her head, which I think is so funny because it's like, that's the main thing you shouldn't do as kids. Like, that's one of the main lessons you learn as a kid is don't put plastic bags over your head. And that's exactly what Eda's doing. So it just shows how irresponsible she is. And I loved this little scene where she puts it on her head. And it looks like she opened it from the bottom because that's something Eda would do. She would like get a package of like any food, and instead of opening it from the top, she'd open it from the bottom. And it's like that's what she would do. But in the scene right before it, she clearly opens it from the top. It's just like, I don't know. Hex Mix itself is just so funny. So while they're talking about a plan and how there isn't really a plan, Luz, Hooty, and King get trapped in their trap thing. And they meet up, sort of, you know, talk about what's happening. Hooty gives Lilith like a weird shirt. And then we get to the conversation of King being a Titan. And it comes as a shock, obviously, to Lilith, Eda, and apparently even Hooty. I guess Hooty just forgot. He's like, whoa. I don't know, kind of funny. But, you know, it definitely comes as a big shock. And then we see like a nice little scene where, you know, King's looking out at the Titan, and then Hooty gives him a hug in his little Porta-Hooty thing. It's so cute. And he's like building a little snow Francois. It's so adorable. This entire first section is just like really, really heartwarming. And especially we see it from Eda here, where she knows the Day of Unity is just 2 days away. And she's like, all right, here's the plan. You're not going to know the plan until later. And Luz is like, oh, so that I don't accidentally spill it when I get caught? And she's like, sure, yeah, but there actually is no plan because Eda and Lilith they don't have magic. They're kind of on their own. They don't have a plan. Their only plan, which I really, really love. This episode is so good. There's so much parallels and so much nice emotional stuff in this episode. And Eda is just being responsible for Luz and not wanting to get her involved. Sort of like in a couple episodes ago where Eda broke down in front of Lilith saying like, oh, they're just kids. They don't deserve to be on the front lines like this. I don't know. It's such a nice thing to see. It just makes you really love Eda as a character because she's like just this scrawny, sort of irresponsible, wild, I don't know, her Eda-ness. And then like when she comes to care for Luz and King and she shows her motherly side, it's so good. It's such a nice little character development, and you just love seeing it from Eda so much. So she's not telling Luz about the plan simply to keep her safe. And then we get like a little subplot with Lilith where she's freaking out over King being a Titan. And she's like, oh, King, how do I address you, Mr. Titan, sir? And King is there being like, just refer to me as King. I'm just King. And then Lilith's like, oh, no, I have to refer to you as a Titan because you're a Titan. You're the god. And he's like, okay, I command you to go away or whatever. I want alone time. I don't know. It was kind of sad that King had to do that. And then he wanders off. The King subplot is actually kind of hype. I won't lie to you. So when Eda walks over and is like, hey, if you could do anything you want for a day, what would you want to do? And King just like, I just want to have a normal day, while Luz wants to go in a heist and get back Francois for King. So that's exactly what happens. While King stays back and tries to have a normal day while Lilith is pestering him, Eda and Luz make their way to where I guess they took their stuff from the Owl House, where the Coven Scouts have captured all their stuff, and they're trying to get Francois back, basically. So they dress up in these fake uniforms, and they enter the building. And then this part here, in the King B plot, actually caught me off guard. We see King, like, walking around the town, being kind of sad. And who, of all people, does he find but Steve? Freaking Steve! And low-key, not even low-key, high-key Steve has been popping off in the community. People are obsessing over Steve, and I can already tell you they're gonna pop off even more, because Steve is no longer just a side funny, haha Steve, his name is Steve funny character. He's actually a main character now, or at least a supporting character. Like, he was just a meme. Don't get me wrong, I love Steve. But he was just a meme. He was just that guy. He was that Coven soldier faceless guy. He was like cool. He was like, alright, Lulu. But no, what the Owl House creators were doing was that they were doing it on purpose. They were slowly, drip feeding us Steve content until this episode. They're like, alright, we gotta get this character called Steve. The community's gonna love him. We just gotta keep drip feeding them more and more Steve content until this episode, when Steve literally takes King out for a joyride. And it's like when Steve was talking about how, oh, I finally had everything that I wanted, but it wasn't everything that I thought it was. It was a really nice parallel to King, which is weird because he's relating to like a freaking meme character. It's just like, what the frick? You have one of your main trio relate to the meme character who now becomes a supporting side character. Honestly, you love to see it. So the two of them, while they chat, they go on a little joyride, which is pretty fun. And Lilith and Hooty are chasing after them, trying to figure out where they went. They find out that King went on a walk and went missing, so they go off to find him. Back to the A plot, Eda tricks a guard into giving her a key, and then they come down into a warehouse to find where Francois has been. And then Eda gives Luz her staff, saying, hey, if anything happens, you fly away on Albert, and I'll handle what happens next, which is kind of foreshadowing to what happens. I mean, it just makes sense. Why else would they show this scene? It just makes sense to be foreshadowing. And we see the sadness from Luz, where it's like, oh, I don't want to abandon Eda. To make things a little better, to lighten the mood, Eda jokes about, hey, well, if you find my long toenail clippings, also grab those as well, which is like, what? She has a collection of her long toenails. Very Eda thing, but whatever. So they go their separate ways, and Lilith finds one of the Coven Guard captains talking to who else but Raine Whispers. And we see that they are giving out orders, talking about like, hey, when you find Eda, bring her to me, which I really like, because it's like, obviously Raine has a plan, right? They just want to keep Eda safe. So if they can get their hands on Eda, they can pretend to be still possessed, but then, they can maybe haul Eda off somewhere safe, because they want to keep Eda safe. That's what Raine wants to do. So I imagine that's their secret plan. And we as the viewers know that, but, you know, no one else does, because frickin' Tara Snap, frickin' loser. Anyway, back to the Steve and King B-plot. They're driving around, having like a little joyride, and he took King out somewhere in the boonies, I guess, and then King finds like a little, I don't know, rib, tooth, I think it's like a rib of the Titan, and he gives a little hug, which is like super sweet, and they continue on their joyride. And before they do that though, this was insane. We get what I am dubbing the Hootycopter. It's like a helicopter, but it's the Hootycopter. I was wondering if I should call it the Hootycopter or like the Hootsifercopter. I just think Hootycopter or the Hootcopter. I think Hootycopter just works best. She flies down. Like, you have a staff. Where'd you put it? Why do you have to fly with Hooty? How does he even do that? Every single time, dude. It's like every episode they do something new with Hooty. And it's like every time. It's like they're never gonna run out of bag of tricks with Hooty. He's just an all-purpose demon. No matter what you do, it's like they have so much creativity with Hooty. They never run out. Where he can wrap himself around and use himself as legs, like in the Coven Day Parade. He can shoot things out like crazy, like a gun. He can use a whip. He can be a grappling hook. He's anything. He's literally the all-purpose demon, and he can literally fly. The Hootycopter, dude. The Hootycopter. Sorry, little tangent there. It's insane though. It's insane. So we get King and Steve walking around. By the way, I love that Steve has a t-shirt that literally just says Steve on it. It's pretty funny. And we see Steve watching some old ladies, you know, walking around, and he's like, oh, I wish I could have a relationship or something. It's like, oh, I wanted power and I wanted to be an awesome coven leader, but now I'm lonely. And then King's comforting Steve. I don't know, it's a really nice scene. And like we get this whole like little scene where, you know, Lilith and Hooty are chasing after Steve and King, and they're like exploring around, you know, they're helping people, doing things. I don't know, it's like a really nice little couple of scenes, you know, it's like they're doing what they really want to do without any like titles or positions. And every single time King is looking at part of the Titan, because he is the son of the Boiling Isles, you know, and it just feels, it's like every time you just see it, you know exactly what he's thinking, and it's really sweet. And then like he lays down in a puddle and Steve gives him like a little paper mache thing. I don't really know what it's just like a paper mache thing. It's just like a guy. I don't know. It's sweet though. It's sweet. So they move on, and then we get back to the A plot where Eda is spying on Raine and this captain that is talking to Raine, and you know, this is talking about how we need to get Eda, and then Eda, once the captain leaves, goes up to Raine, and she's like, yo, listen, Raine, I know that you helped me at the Coven Day Parade. I know you're lying, basically. She basically says, I know you're lying. And when she reveals that she knows about the Day of Unity, Raine slips up and makes a little, like, uh-oh, she knows. And she's like, I saw that. You can't trick me, Raine. I know you too well. And that was a really nice scene. I liked that. But basically, she's like, listen, I don't care what happens to me. You can even take me in if you want. All I need you to do, Raine, is keep Luz and King safe, because I know that's something that you can do. Please do that. And it's so sweet, because it's like, it really shows Eda's growth, where it's like, I don't even care. I don't care what happens to me anymore. Just keep Luz and King safe. And that's so sweet. That is so sweet. Right before Raine can even say anything, who do you expect except frickin' Tara Snapdragon coming in and being like, oh, Raine, who you chatting with? Oh, it's me, Tara Loser Dragon. Best insult of 2022 right there. Maybe Tara Cringe Dragon? I don't know. I'll find some insult to call her later. Anyway, and she's like, oh, who you talking to? And Raine's like, nobody, just Coven, just giving orders, whatever, yep. And then they hang up, so that's the thing. But another little twist comes where Luz heard the whole thing, and now she's like, Eda, you're not gonna let me help with the plan? And it's so sad, because like by the way, she found Francois, that's the thing, but she found out that Eda was lying to her about the plan. And we get this really nice confrontation thing where Luz, you know exactly what's going through Luz's mind. I feel like maybe as a younger viewer, a lot of people here would side with Luz. And maybe it's also because of the framing. I feel like maybe more people would side with Eda because of the framing. It's showing the point of view from Eda more than Luz. But again, I feel like younger viewers would probably be able to relate to Luz more in this situation. Though, as an older viewer, I definitely relate more to Eda. Again, could just be the framing. But, you know, we see the different point of views where it's Eda wanting to keep Luz safe, where Luz is like, I want to help out Eda. I want to be as much help as I can. You know, she doesn't want to be underestimated. And that's exactly where this conflict comes in. And this is actually a really cool conflict where it leads up to Luz and Eda basically battling it out. So while Luz is yelling at Eda, being like, "Oh, you underestimate you don't trust me, you just want to take me away, and I want to be with you," and she walks off. Except the whole time the Emperor's coven heard that, so they're gonna start going after them. But Eda goes into harpy mode, and she's like, "Listen, I'm not gonna let you run away." And then Luz is like, "You're gonna have to make me." So then they have this really sort of sad battle, and it's just like, it's so sad because like Luz starts crying, and she's like, "Oh, I have to attack Eda. It's the only way that I'm gonna get not go with Raine." Whatever. So they have like this nice little escape scene, except in the end, Eda sees through Luz's trick. She like smacks away this little ice thing that Luz gets away on, and I don't know, it was like a really cool scene to see, because like I like how Luz was sort of not really putting Eda in harm's way, but like doing every little trick in the bag that she could do. But Eda's seen it all. She's been with Luz, and then she can kind of overpower it and be like, "All right, that's it. No, you're not going anywhere." But she's not the only one saying that, because they end up getting captured by the Coven, so that sucks. And then we get back to Steve and King, and King's like, "Oh, I don't want people to see me as this big scary monster." And then Steve is like, "You know what, dude? Me too." And we get the Steve face reveal? Like, what? That was so shocking. It's like, this is like supposed to be a meme character. It's a meme character, like a faceless meme character. No freaking face or anything. He's just like a Coven soldier default guy. But no, he's just a guy. He's literally just a guy. And that's it. Like, it's perfect. He's just a guy. And it's the same with King, where it's like, he's a Titan and all that, but like, he's also just King. Like what he was trying to tell Lilith. He's like, I'm just King. And that's exactly what he says when Lilith and Hooty finally catch up. And then they're like, "Steve, what?" It's pretty funny. But King starts talking to Lilith, and Lilith's like, "Oh, your majesty, hey, whatever, King, Titan." And he's like, "No, I don't, stop. I'm just freaking King. Seriously, I'm just King." And then Lilith gets a bit embarrassed, and she's like, "Oh, okay, And then Hooty, like, attacks Steve? Like, what? It's a little weird. Hooty still thinks like Steve's on the other side. Anyway, we get back to the A-plot with Luz and Eda, and this is my favorite scene in the whole episode. So the captain from earlier comes in and is like, "All right, the human is going to go to the castle, while the owl lady is going to go to the Praetorium to be petrified for real this time." And Eda's like, "Why don't you just get it over with now, huh? Come at me, bro." Her very Eda taunts. And then we just see like this, I want to say edgelord Luz. I don't know, just like looking at it, just feels like she's been betrayed almost in a way. I don't know, I love, dude, this expression with Luz, and her hair looks so cool too. Oh my gosh, I love what they're doing with Luz's hair lately. But she's just like, "Oh, wow, okay, are you happy? Now none of us can stop Belos." And she starts breaking out in tears, and it's so sad. She's just like, "I just wanted you to help you with your stupid plan." And then Eda also breaks out in tears and is like, "Listen, there was no freaking stupid plan, Luz. We don't have magic. Lilith and I don't have magic. What do you expect us to do? Like, I have harpy mode. Lilith might also get harpy mode one day. Probably, maybe. I don't know. But that's it. She's just like, I just wanted to keep you safe more than anything else. That's all that mattered to me. Because, like, the only thing we have left is you and King. We have nothing else. We don't have magic. We don't have power. We don't have allies. All we have are you and King. And if we lose you, we lose everything." And it's so sad, because then Luz even recognizes it. She knows. She goes from her defiant sort of stage, not defiant, that's not the right word, but then she immediately understands why Eda did what she did. And it's so sweet. And then we see Luz getting thrown into the back of a, I don't know, carriage thing, and Eda also getting thrown into a separate carriage. And then this is like a super sick shot, where it's like, oh, we get like a little time passage cut, and we get this awesome shot. I love this shot. Nothing really comes of it too much, but it's like, what would Luz have done here? We get this shot with Luz alone, and she literally looks like she's about to like kill somebody. She's so angry. She's like, "Give Eda back." Like, she legit looks so freaking cool. And this shot, I actually got chills. I was like, "Yo, it's happening. It's happening. It's happening." I was so ready for her to just go absolutely insane. But instead of going in super hard, she just rushes out and immediately sort of gets captured, sort of. And I knew exactly what was happening here. I was like, okay, something's up. Something happened. And then we get a shot where we see the resistance force that I'm going to call it, at least until the name drop. Okay, it's called Cats. It's literally called Cats. Forget the name of the meeting. I'll check in just a second. But it's called Cats, and we see, like everyone has joined up. The Bards Against the Coven people are there. Steve's there. Raine is there. And Darius and Eber are there too. We finally get them completely 100% revealed. And then we get Raine and Luz, they finally get to meet. And then Luz is like, oh my gosh, Raine, I heard all about your awesome stories with Eda. You're so freaking cool. It's pretty neat. And then we get some really cool shots with Darius as well. I don't know, I love Darius, dude. He gets, I don't know, seeing him like on the good guy's side is pretty cool. And then even Raine is like, yo, why'd you have to beat us up so hard? And then Darius is like, oh, we had to just make sure that, we'd like play along, that we had to make it a good show or whatever. And I was like, what? There's no point. No one's watching you. I mean, I don't know. But basically, Darius and Eber, they already thought that the Day of Unity was like a load of garbage. So then when they figured out that Raine was also not into it, they were like, yeah, we can team up with them. Why not? And then it's also revealed that Steve is a part of the Resistance as well. And then we get this super cool, I think this is another really good like scene where Eda's coming up to Raine and she's like, why? Why'd you pretend that you were under a spell? Or like, why didn't you come to me for help? And they're just like, I wanted to keep you safe. And then Eda's like, oh, okay. I know the feeling. She literally, the second she hears Raine say that, she looks at Luz and it's like, oh, that's just when you know. She did the exact same thing to Luz. And then it's like, through what Raine was doing to her, she now understands exactly how Luz feels. Because Eda wanted to help Raine, just like Luz wants to help Eda. I don't know, I just thought that was like such an emotional scene. Like a really nice parallel between Eda and Raine, and then Eda and Luz. After that though, we then get the name reveal of the rebel group. And much to Darius's dismay, apparently he doesn't like it. Instead of the Bards against the throne, we get the Covens against the throne, or Cats for short. And Darius just doesn't like it, like, a lot. I think he just thinks it's cringe or something. I don't know. I think it's pretty funny, though. I think it fits. And then Luz pulls up her cat hoodie, and she's like, oh, yeah, it's all coming full circle. And then just Darius is, like, off in the back. Like, everyone's happy except for Darius. I'm just like, bruh. It's pretty funny. But then we get, like, a nice final scene where everybody looks like they're, coming up with a plan. Darius and Raine are working together with Steve and the Bards. And then Lilith and Hooty are taking a nap with each other, which is super cute. And then off toward, like, another side, we get Francois given back to King. Super sweet. He's super happy to have it back. And then this might be my favorite scene. Or, like, a scene that I was, maybe not my favorite, but one that I was looking forward to a lot. And I think a lot of other people were too. And then Eda pulls out what else but her freaking toenail box collection, which, if you're anything like me, you knew immediately that it wasn't that. Like, obviously, Eda wouldn't care about that. The second I saw that box, I was like, okay, the size of the box, you know what that could fit? It could fit the Palisman wood. Luz opens it, boom, Palisman wood, there it is. Eda's like, hey, it's time to carve your Palisman, woohoo! And Luz is like, no, I have to focus, I can't carve my Palisman. But then Eda's like, hey, listen, we're actually not alone anymore. We have teammates and stuff. And it's like a really nice little, full circle to the episode. And then Luz is worried about what if the Palisman doesn't like her. And King's like, hey, you've befriended so many enemies by this point. It doesn't even matter if it doesn't like you at first. And it's such a little sweet scene. So then Eda just like, all right, you know what? Let's get to carving. And she because she learned from her dad. So now it's like, she's like passing it on, where she starts teaching Luz how to do it. She's like organizing the wood and whatnot. I don't know. It's such a nice little scene. And then it just ends with a little shot of the Titan as well. I don't know. This episode was really good, I think, emotionally, where it ties in everything that's sort of been building up, where it feels like our heroes finally have a fighting chance. After so much trauma and so much despair, we finally have some hope where everyone sort of understands each other. They finally teamed up with the rebels. Like, things are looking pretty good. I think the main mystery of this episode definitely comes in the very beginning with the Collector and King. It's just very confusing. The Collector is like wandering around. There's like, I don't know what that thing is that the Collector's in. The Ultra Peace Ball? I really don't know what else to call it, dude. Either way, though, that is basically the whole episode. I think like the things that shocked me the most, besides just like, getting the very nice emotional moments, was just the whole Steve thing. It's like, dang, Steve's actually popping off. I mean, I'm all for it. I love Steve, dude. I always thought Steve was hilarious. And now it's like, hey, what if we made this meme an actual character? And that's what they did. They just freaking made him a character. It's so good. I just think this was such a good episode for Eda and Luz. And I think that they are probably one of the strongest relationships in the show. How much depth the relationships in the Owl House have, like, between characters, I think Eda and Luz is, like, most definitely, I think it's just, like, hands down, the most developed relationship in the show. And I just love seeing their relationship grow and then going through ups and downs together. I don't know, I just love seeing it. It's so nice. It's so wonderful. So again, let me know your thoughts. I'll probably, I keep saying it, I don't know if I'll have a follow-up video to this. I might not, we'll see. Either way, let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you all later, I guess, or maybe just tomorrow, for Amphibia's final episode. Hoo boy, I'm not ready.